So the next item on the agenda is a decision item on the REGDOC 3.1.2 reporting requirements, Volume 1, non-power reactor Class 1 nuclear facilities and uranium mines and mills, as outlined in CND 17 M63 and M63.8. And I understand that Ms. Owen Whitred will do the presentation. Over to you.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président, membres de la Commission. My name is Karen Owen Whitred, Director of the Regulatory Framework Division. With me today are Heidi Tadros, Director General of the Directorate on Nuclear Cycles and Facilities Regulation, Rebecca Dimhoff, Regulatory Framework Officer, Anne Erdman, Senior Project Officer, and other CNSC staff available to support and answer any questions you may have. We are here today to request Commission approval of REGDOC 3.1.2 Reporting Requirements, Volume 1, Non-Power Reactor Class 1 Nuclear Facilities and Uranium Mines and Mills. REGDOC 3.1.2, Volume 1, consolidates requirements and guidance for reports and notifications that licensees of Class 1 nuclear facilities, excluding power reactors, and of uranium mines and mills must submit to the CNSC. If approved by the Commission, REGDOC 3.1.2, Volume 1 will be an important document in the CNSC's regulatory framework. I will now outline today's presentation. I will start by providing an overview of the CNSC's regulatory framework series for reporting requirements. Next, we will provide further detail on the regulatory document that is provided today for Commission approval. Specifically, we will present the background, the objectives, and the process and results of public consultation, including the key comments from the public consultation and how CNSC staff addressed them. We will provide a brief explanation of how this regulatory document, if approved, would be implemented. Finally, we will finish our presentation with CNSC staff's conclusions and recommendations. Before discussing the document in detail, I will briefly review the role of regulatory documents and where this document is situated within the CNSC's regulatory document framework. To enhance accessibility of our regulatory expectations, the CNSC structures our regulatory documents according to the framework shown here. REGDOC 3.1.2, Volume 1, indicated by the boxed text on this slide, is found in Category 3, Other Regulatory Areas, in the subsection for reporting requirements. This series also contains REGDOC 3.1.1, Reporting Requirements for Nuclear Power Plants, Version 2, which was published in April 2016, and REGDOC 3.1.2, Reporting Requirements, Volume 2, Class 2 Nuclear Facilities, Prescribed Equipment, Nuclear Substances, and Radiation Devices, which is presently under development and is expected to be posted for public consultation in early 2018. REGDOC 3.1.2, Volume 1 applies to a broad range of licensees, as shown on this slide. As a point of clarification, the research facilities category shown on this slide includes Canadian Nuclear Laboratories at Chalk River, as well as Class 1B accelerators, such as Triumph, and research reactors, such as the Slowpoke reactor licensees. Waste facilities includes the Class 1B waste facility licensees, such as Western Waste Management, but not the waste nuclear substance licensees. I will now pass the presentation to Heidi Tadros.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Heidi Tadros, Director General of the Directorate of Nuclear Cycle and Facilities Regulation. This slide outlines the objectives of this regulatory document. Regulatory Document 3.1.2, Volume 1, consolidates and clarifies reporting requirements. For instance, the document contains a sample structure on the expected contents of an annual compliance monitoring report. This regulatory document also provides licensees a single point of reference to find reporting requirements. It standardizes reporting is expected to reduce reporting errors or inconsistencies. And finally, this regulatory document aims to reduce uncertainty on the part of the licensed community. If approved, Regulatory Document 3.1.2, Volume 1 will supersede the regulatory documents found on this slide. These documents will be archived upon approval of this regulatory document. The contents of Regulatory Document 3.1.2, Volume 1 describes three main items. Number one, a section on reporting requirements and event reporting, as well as information on various situations, events, and notifications requiring a report to the CNSC. Number two, the document outlines the timing in which to make a report. And finally, number three, the document provides a sample structure and content for an annual compliance monitoring report that licensees provide to the CNSC. The next two slides provide information on the first main item in this regulatory document, event reporting. Licensees are required to report to the CNSC regarding situations, events, and dangerous occurrences that may require attention and action by the CNSC. Licensees are also required to provide notification on certain normal business activities such as work disturbances or financial status, in accordance with the Nuclear Safety and Control Act and the regulations made under the Act. As well, licensees are required to notify the CNSC of specific situations such as exceedances of action levels. The requirement to report situations and events of regulatory interest to the CNSC stems specifically from the General Nuclear Safety and Control Regulations, Section 29. In addition, other reporting requirements are found in the Packaging and Transport of Nuclear Substance Regulations and also the Radiation Protection Regulations and license conditions. The examples provided on this slide are taken from Section 29 of the General Nuclear Safety and Control Regulations. In addition to the events that are found in the regulations, the regulatory document also includes specific reporting provisions. These reporting provisions incorporate best practice and lessons learned from operating experience and provide further clarity, complement, and expand on regulatory requirements. Some of the specific reporting provisions found in the regulatory document are the discovery of counterfeit, fraudulent, or suspect items, any failure to monitor, control, or record the release of nuclear substances, or any failure to monitor or control the release of hazardous substances. This slide presents the progression and timing of reporting to the CNSC as stipulated in the General Nuclear and Safety and Control Regulations. As depicted here, once a reportable event occurs, licensees are to immediately notify or inform the CNSC. This is typically done through providing a preliminary report. The regulatory document states immediately, meaning as soon as the licensee becomes aware that a situation or event is reportable. The General Nuclear and Safety and Control Regulations further describe the timing and content of a full report. The main item in the regulatory document pertains to the annual compliance monitoring report. The information that a licensee provides in the annual compliance monitoring report demonstrates a licensee's compliance to regulatory requirements. Licensees provide a variety of information, including radiation dose statistics, environmental data, as well as lost time injuries that can then be trended year to year for performance purposes. All this information is used in the CNSC's regulatory oversight reports that are presented to the Commission. The next few slides will outline the public consultation activities carried out on this regulatory document and CNSC staff's disposition of the comments. A 121-day public consultation period was held on the draft document from July 11th to September 9th, 2016. During this consultation period, comments were received from 7 respondents, namely Cameco, Bruce Power, Canadian Nuclear Laboratories, Ontario Power Generation, Canadian Nuclear Association, Nordion, and Areva. A total of 147 individual comments were received. In some cases, identical or equivalent comments were received. Those were regrouped, resulting in 112 distinct comments. Following the public consultation period, submissions from respondents were posted on the CNSC website from December 20th, 2016 to January 16, 2017 for further feedback on the comments received. One comment was submitted to the CNSC from the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority during the feedback on comments period. The Winnipeg Regional Health Authority comment sought clarity on the scope of the regulatory document. As a result of all comments, CNSC staff clarified on our CNSC's external website and the regulatory document. CNSC staff organized a workshop on September 27, 2017 with industry stakeholders. The invitation was sent to all licensees to whom REGDOC-3.1.2 Volume 1 will apply. 12 organizations, identified on this slide, participated in the workshop. The purpose of the workshop was to discuss the comments received and present how the document was modified to address the comments. The workshop contributed to further refinement of the text in the regulatory document and helped in coming to a mutual understanding in certain areas. This included the expectation on intent and level of details in some areas of the annual compliance monitoring report. In the following slides, we will describe feedback from stakeholders in more detail. CNSC staff addressed all of the stakeholder comments. Most comments were readily resolved. CNSC staff revised the document to address the comments or provided an explanation for why proposed revisions were not incorporated. CNSC staff found the comments to be very helpful, especially in clarifying the intent of the regulatory document and in identifying areas where editorial changes strengthened the text. The next few slides focus on the 4 key concerns listed on this slide and describe how CNSC responded to each concern. For concern number 1, some stakeholders commented that in some cases, the preliminary report may adequately provide sufficient information to be considered a full report, and the regulatory document should be revised to reflect this. CNSC staff agreed with this comment and revised the regulatory document, indicating that a preliminary report in some cases can be considered a full report. If a licensee determines that an investigation beyond the preliminary report is unlikely to yield further relevant details or identify additional corrective actions to prevent recurrence of the situation or event, then a full report may not be necessary. In this case, the preliminary report should include the information required by a full report. CNSC staff also added information to the regulatory document clarifying the action licensees should take should they discover a situation or event that did not have to be reported. In this case, the licensee is to provide the CNSC with a written statement that includes a rationale to support their conclusion. With regards to concern number 2, some stakeholders commented that immediate reporting is being applied to all types of events, thus increasing administrative burden. Reporting timelines should be replaced by safety significance, the same as Regulatory Document 3.1.1 reporting requirements for nuclear power plants. Regarding this concern, CNSC staff clarified that the General Nuclear Safety and Control Regulations prescribe that a preliminary report is required immediately for those events outlined in Section 29 of those regulations. CNSC staff determined that there was no reason to deviate from what is required in regulations based on safety significance of the event. Minimal information is required in a preliminary report, and providing the information immediately ensures CNSC staff is informed and can take action as necessary. Licensees currently notify the CNSC of all types of situations through the CNSC duty officer. With regards to concern number 3, some stakeholders commented that Regulatory Document 3.1.2, Volume 1, calls for an annual report that summarizes information already provided to the CNSC in other separate submissions, imposing significant administrative burden with no benefit. CNSC responded that Regulatory Document 3.1.2, Volume 1 is not intended to increase regulatory burden and duplication of reporting. After publication, CNSC staff added further guidance, after public consultation, CNSC staff added further guidance to the regulatory document to clarify if any information has been previously provided to the CNSC, it does not need to be duplicated and can be referenced by the licensee's submissions. The regulatory document permits licensees to provide a single and summarized annual report. For example, if a licensee already submits separate reports for specific safety and control areas, these can simply be referenced in the annual compliance monitoring report without duplication. The final key concern from some stakeholders pertained to implementation. Some licensees commented that there is no information on implementation in the regulatory document, and direction on transitioning from what licensees currently report on is required. CNSC staff clarified that licensees are currently submitting most of the reports described in this regulatory document within the time frame specified in the Nuclear Safety and Control Act and the regulations under the Act. CNSC staff expect licensees would be able to meet all the reporting requirements in this regulatory document by early 2019, when they submit their 2018 Annual Compliance Monitoring Report. The following slide will further explain implementation in greater detail. The CNSC has a standard practice in place with regards to implementation of regulatory documents. With all regulatory documents, REGDOC 3.1.2 Volume 1, if approved, is expected to be published on the CNSC website in 2018 and made available to applicants, licensees, and other stakeholders. Following publication, licensees will be requested to submit an implementation plan for Regulatory Document 3.1.2 Volume 1. Implementation plans and associated timelines will be captured in the license condition handbooks and form part of the CNSC staff's compliance verification criteria. I will now pass the presentation back to Ms. Karen Owen-Whitred.
Karen Owen-Whitred for the record. REGDOC 3.1.2, Volume 1, was developed through consultation with stakeholders and is essential to communicating and formalizing the CNSC's requirements and guidance related to reports and notifications that licensees of Class 1 nuclear facilities, excluding power reactors, and of uranium mines and mills, must submit to the CNSC. This regulatory document consolidates and clarifies reporting requirements, provides applicants and licensees with a single point of reference to find reporting requirements, provides guidance on the expected contents of an annual compliance report, and reduces uncertainty with further guidance on reporting requirements. CNSC staff conclude that REGDOC 3.1.2, Reporting Requirements, Volume 1, Non-Power Reactor Class 1 Nuclear Facilities and Uranium Mines and Mills, is ready for final approval by the Commission for publication. If approved, this regulatory document is expected to be published in early 2018. Based on our conclusions, CNSC staff recommends that the Commission approve this regulatory document. We thank you for your attention and remain available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.